Hey, everybody. We're so glad you joined us for our monthly Lymphedema Patient Roundtable. I am Brenda Viola with LymphaPress, and it is our honor to host these webinars every month to encourage, educate, inspire, answer your questions. We know that you are logging on right now, and we thank you so much for giving us 1 hour out of your month. We've got wonderful panelists tonight and even a special guest, and I'm going to start there with Sean Mulroney of the Obesity Revolution. Hey, Sean.
Hey, Brenda. Hey, everybody.
It's so awesome to have you here, Sean. It's like having a celebrity here with us because you have such a following. Wow. But we became friends when you started using your LymphaPress LymphaPod. Yes. And the LymphaPod is for people with lymphedema who may not fit into other garments. What do you love about your LymphaPod, Sean?
Well, number one, that I can fit in it, that something actually fits people in, our category, number one. And the fact how I feel and how soft my leg gets after I just do one thing. I mean, I was in rehab and used it in there, and everything was, it's epic. I don't know. I can't even tell you. I mean, I think everyone needs to have a LymphaPod. That's all I can say. Everyone.
Well, if you've tried other pneumatic compression solutions and you've been frustrated, or if you didn't think there was one that could fit your size, oh my goodness, the LymphaPod is for you. And Karen Ashforth, who is one of our product experts, she does not work for LymphaPress, but we often partner with her because she is an expert on devices. What do you have to say about the LymphaPod? Isn't it a game changer for people?
Oh my gosh, I love it, Brenda. In fact, I have a patient who's going to be getting a pod at the end of this month, and we are all so excited because he's just been struggling for years and did bariatric surgery, but he's just got this really difficult pannus that makes it difficult to walk. And I think that this is going to be such a game changer for him to be able to use on a daily basis. I'm excited.
I'm excited about it too. And I'm glad because we don't often talk about the LymphaPod here at the roundtable. I still have other introductions to do, but here's the point. Lymphedema is no respecter of persons. It can affect people of any age, people of all different sizes, all different backgrounds. And we are here to encourage you tonight, whatever state you might be in. And we are having people saying hi from lots of different states. Like Karen Moody says hi from Alabama, and Madison from Florida is out there. And we see other friends like Christy Woods, Ed Davis is out there, Jen Bell, wife of Kelly Bell, veteran fighting lymphedema. Kelly, you have some awesome news for us, don't you?
News for when I was receiving the Learn Award in Boston a couple weeks ago, after I made my presentation, Dr. Singal came up and he said he wanted to be my doctor, which I don't think what he's getting into there, but he said that they're starting to do research on central lymphatics, and he asked me to come present to his staff. So
nice.
That's a big deal.
That is such a big deal. We are all cheering you on. We're so glad to have you on this panel to share your perspective. You are a veteran fighting lymphedema, and I think that we are all fighting together and thriving together too, because Amanda Sobey, I see all of your posts, and recently it's just about, there's been so much inspiration about fighting for yourself because you're worth it.
Definitely.
That's pretty much your
I don't know
message,
whether I'm jumping in or not, but hi everybody. Definitely.
Yeah, jump in. This is your big.
Well, we had, I think, the discussion
moment
today, spoiler alert, where it was about the anger that you feel with having this condition, but also the feeling worthwhile enough to know that you can do something about it and that you're worth the investment, you're worth the time, you're worth the resources. And that's a really hard thing to accept, especially, I think, I don't know about other people, but being a mom and being a caregiver and taking care of everyone else, and then having to completely switch that and accept the help, accept that I'm worthwhile to fix for lack of better words. It was a big growth moment for me there. So yeah, definitely.
That is so good. And we're going to talk more about that as the night goes on. If there's something you want to talk about, please put it in the Q&A. We got a lovely hello from North Carolina from Stephanie Roach, and Teresa Fitzgerald from Tampa is out there. Christy Curry, our girl from Texas, is saying hello. And we want to thank you, Barbara and Charles and Emma and Jeffrey and Jen and Joanna and Judy, all of you who have shown up tonight. It's just so wonderful. Now we have 2 people that got the memo, which said, wear your Camp Watch Me t-shirt. So please represent. We've got Nasreen Starner, who is also a certified lymphedema therapist, as is our wonderful Karen Ashworth, and Alexa Ercolano, who is part of the marketing team at LymphaPress. She is also a primary lymphedema patient. You both went to camp. Now we want to talk about this more, but I'll start with you, Nasreen. What was your big takeaway? Camp Watch Me is, for those who don't know.
Camp Watch Me is the first and only pediatric lymphedema camp in the United States, and actually I think in North America, because there were some participants from Canada as well. So it is just an amazing camp where families come with their children and they learn how to manage their lymphedema, learn about their lymphedema, and learn, I can't say everything, but a lot in a very short period of time, as well as get to see other people who are in similar situations. I think it can just be so overwhelming and scary, and to find other people who are going through what you're going through, and to have a whole community and have all that support it's just absolutely amazing.
You know, what Camp Watch Me does in a week of camp for these children with lymphedema and their families is sort of what we try to do once a month at the roundtables. Let you know you're not alone, that there are other people that have and are living and thriving with the same condition that you have, and we want to bring you hope and inspire you. So that was so well said. While I say hi to Richard from New Jersey and Sherry Brack from Texas and Mary from Ohio, we've got people from all over the place tonight. I absolutely love that. So as a therapist, you went to help teach patients and their parents how to manage their condition.
Correct.
And
we
Alexa,
worked. Yep. Sorry.
go ahead.
We worked one-on-one. Each child was paired up with a therapist. Betty, who is on the roundtable, is the one who started the camp, and it is absolutely amazing. It is life-changing, I swear, for these kids.
Wow.
and their families. But you're paired up with a kid, you work with them and teach them what you know. And we had awesome vendors who donated garments for daytime and nighttime. And it was just really such an incredible experience for all of us. I feel like I got as much from the camp as the kids did. And we had wonderful people like Alexa there too. Yeah, we had wonderful people like Alexa who could share their story and be role models and inspiration for the campers. And I feel like I'm going to channel my inner Betty and start crying right now, but but it is honestly just such a beautiful place.
Betty Westbrook is on her way back from camp. So she's normally one of our panelists. She also is a certified lymphedema therapist. We honor Betty and the work of Camp Watch Me. And before I throw it to Alexa, I got to say more people are so much fun tonight. They are in chat saying hello. So we've got Jen in New Jersey, and we've got Kristen in Florida, and Barbara from South Carolina, and Lori from Minnesota. So we're glad you're all here. If I didn't mention your name, don't feel left out. We're just so glad you're with us. So Alexa Ercolano, you went to camp.
Yes.
Had you ever gone to, first of all, you are a child who has lymphedema. You are now an adult with lymphedema. Had you ever gone to camp before?
I've never been to camp before, so this was a first for me, and my inner child was super excited. We did, in addition to all the education and stuff that Nasreen spoke about, we also went hiking, we went climbing on a rock wall, we went swimming, we did yoga in the morning with the Rocky Mountains behind us and elk and prairie dogs popping up all over the place. And it was really an amazing experience. And I definitely cried a lot. I ignore my cat behind me. He heard climbing and said, me too. It was a beautiful, beautiful time. And I know I'm going to cry tonight talking about it, but I loved it. I wish something like that was around when I was a kid. But I got to go now, so, you know.
Yes, better late than never. You know, you had a particularly touching encounter with a young girl. And you know, I think we all want to see people that we can aspire to be or look up to or get a picture of what our future could be like. And we want you to know, those of you who have joined us tonight, you can manage your lymphedema. Sean Mulroney, can you manage your lymphedema?
Yes, absolutely.
Yes.
Absolutely.
Everyone at this round table is managing their lymphedema. Angela, are you managing your lymphedema? Yep. Now, sometimes it tries to get the better of us, right, Catherine?
Yep.
But you're managing, we're managing, and we're not just struggling, we are living. You're living with lymphedema. So that is a phrase that Alexa taught me, that we are living with it, not suffering with it. And you had a really touching encounter with a young girl. Could you share that with us, Alexa?
Sure. So on the last night of camp, we had pizza by the lake, and we went paddle boarding and pontoon boating and all that. And one of the little girls came up at the end of it, and she walked up to me and she said, "This is the first time I haven't been scared to talk about my lymphedema." And now I'm tearing up thinking about that. But she started to cry,
awesome.
and then I started crying, and we just all embraced. And it was so beautiful because I can't help but think, if I were a kid and got to see other kids wearing compression garments and running around playing like, you know, normal kids, what that would have meant for me and how it would have changed how I grew up with this. So it was a really emotional time for everybody, and a very positive emotional experience. Like Nasreen said, I think I got as much out of it as the kids and their families did. So
Nice.
Well, we couldn't have had a better representative from LymphaPress to go and be there and embed with the young people and their families. And I'm glad you got something out of it too, because I sure am learning a lot just from hearing all of you. Now, someone said something in chat, and I want to go right to this because this struck my heart. When I send out an invitation to all of our patients, anybody who's gotten a LymphaPress in the last month or so gets an email from me inviting them to the roundtable. And I always say something like, come and be educated and inspired. And I appreciated this woman's candor. She's not with us tonight, and I wouldn't expose her by mentioning her name, but she said something to the effect of, how dare you even use the word inspiration and lymphedema in the same sentence? And then there was another comment in chat. Someone posted, it feels impossible at times. We are not here to sugarcoat it or to pretend that it's not challenging. We want you to be empowered. And part of it isn't just the physical component, but there's also the emotional component. And we were talking amongst ourselves earlier this week. The woman who said there's nothing inspiring about lymphedema, I felt her anger and her frustration. And I know many of you can relate. Let's build off of this topic for a little bit. And I know, Angela, you said some of it is also not just managing your lymphedema, but managing disappointment. Can you speak to that for us?
Well, disappointment, I looked up the definition for disappointment, and I have my own definition as well. And it simply, to me, means you look forward to something that doesn't happen, or it doesn't happen the way that you have hoped it would happen. And so for me, I have 5 steps that I have to go through when I'm disappointed. And the first step is to acknowledge that I'm disappointed. I have to say, you know, I expected so-and-so and so to happen. It did not happen. And I'm disappointed about it, instead of pushing it aside like, oh, it's okay, don't worry about it, I'm fine, because it makes it small. And every disappointment isn't small. And the next step I have is to name the disappointment. What are you disappointed about? A lot of people sometimes with chronic conditions walk around just disappointed all the time. So what are you disappointed about? Are you disappointed because someone else's protocol didn't work for you? Are you disappointed because you ate one potato chip and you got swelling? What are you disappointed about? If you can name it, you can address it. And then I said, if you can't handle the disappointment yourself, get some help from somebody that you trust, somebody that's capable of helping you, somebody that's able to help you, and be open to being helped through the disappointment. And also, in terms of disappointment, we learn lessons from disappointments. You know, if you tried something, if I tried something that, say, Amanda tried, and it worked perfectly for Amanda, didn't work for me, that's not Amanda's fault. I have to acknowledge the fact that I'm not Amanda. I have to come up with my own protocol. So I learned a lesson. I learned that I'm an individual. So there are lessons in every disappointment we have, I think. And the final one was to journal whatever the feeling is. I feel like we all have disappointments. There's only one way to not have a disappointment, and that is to not exist, in my opinion, because you have expectations every single day, and a disappointment comes from an expectation that wasn't met. Every day you expect to get up, you expect your car to start, you expect to have food to eat, you expect to have a job. So we all have them. We just have to accept that when we meet these disappointments, meet them head on, address them, and deal with them. Don't push them aside. Don't make them small.
Angela,
Nice.
you just dropped some brilliance on us.
Yes, that
Acknowledge
was
it,
fire.
name it, get help, learn the lesson from it, and then journal the feeling. That is great. Wonderful gems of wisdom. So rich. I'm so glad we're talking about this. And then in our chat earlier, and I want to go to you, Amanda, in a minute, but I want to first ask Karen. She had said in our chat that underlying disappointment is something else.
So there's a longing there. And a lot of my patients have these longings, but they're stuck. They're stuck in the disappointment. They're stuck in the anger. They're stuck in the grief. They're stuck in whatever feeling they're in, and it's looping. And what I want to inspire my patients to do is to feel it, because a lot of times the reason it's looping is because they don't feel it's okay to feel it. They don't feel like they can be angry and people will still love them, or that they'll be a good patient. And for goodness sake, we need to go in there and feel those feelings, because they're there for a reason. But once we feel them, then we're not captive to them. We can move and we can get somewhere. And every patient that I have who has what we would call a negative emotion, underneath there is a longing to be whole. And that doesn't necessarily mean skinny legs. It means to feel whole in themselves, no matter what. And changing lymphedema can be a part of that for sure. But healing is not always curing. And it isn't always what we look at. You know, we don't necessarily see the same things for each person. So I think it's really important to feel those emotions and really move. And Angela gave us some great tools for that. And I want to just second that most insurances pay for counseling, and that is a gift people can give to themselves to really help get from that place of agony to the longing and transformation.
This is so rich, and it's speaking to me too. I don't have lymphedema, but I have been dealing with emotions from loss and saying, Brenda, come on, snap out of it. And no, that's not the thing to do. The thing to do is to feel it, acknowledge it, and not judge myself for where I'm at. Same with all of you. So Amanda, you next. And then Sean, I want to go to you about how you handle the mental challenges of your lymphedema, but go ahead, Amanda.
So I got two trains of thought, so just bear with me. I think the frustrating part with lymphedema, now I'm up in Canada for people who don't necessarily know my story, but everyone always thinks Canada is the land of free healthcare. And unfortunately for the province that I live in, my government and my province does not cover my condition at all based on the way how I received the condition. And the disappointment comes from the lack of knowledge or the lack of support. There necessarily isn't always tools in every province and every state. So it makes people feel very helpless when it comes to this condition. And the one thing that I kind of, I laugh at now, but my motto when I was starting to figure out my lymphedema journey was get good at the suck. Really embrace at the hard, embrace this stuff. Like, I remember waking up and being like, why is my life so hard? Why is that every time I try, I fail, I try and I fail? And that, like Karen says, that toxicity of just staying in that loop of just, I'm frustrated, I'm depressed, I'm upset, I can't go further. And I kept on validating that thought pattern. And then when I was like, Amanda, just get good at sucking, because if you get good at sucking, then you're going to be a winner. And so I know I'm making a joke out of it, so please do forgive my tongue-in-cheek sarcasm. But the moment that I started to embrace what I wasn't good at, I started to build up the tools that I needed to do my daily habits, to do my daily care, to do and be kinder to myself. So just because you might not have a system in place, or just because maybe, you might not have therapists around, or you might not have a government support backing you, it doesn't necessarily mean that you can't still make progress with your health. And just try to change that dialogue instead of validating the negative. Like Angela says, call it out, write it out, but get out of that loop. Because once you stay in that loop, it's a thought pattern, it's a habit, and you will always only see the negative in that processing, and it's being more counteractive than productive. So just try to get good at the suck, everybody. I know it's hard.
Well, Tammy Beatty just said, well said, and Amanda, and we appreciate that take on it. And Sean, for the woman who said it feels impossible, what would you say to her?
By the way, that's Lori. I'm glad she's here tonight. She's part of our the obesity revolution, and as well as some other one, Kristen LaCroix, and just ones I've just seen, and it's awesome. But to be quite honest, what Amanda said, lymphedema does suck. I won't candy coat that either. And for anybody else to say different, but here's the thing. What was awesome was that, Angela talked about disappointment. Well, it's an appointment, don't diss on this, or you heard the talk that people always say, don't diss on this. Well, what I call it is there's something in our life that disses on our appointment. And it's like, here's what happens. It comes up to me, but here's what I had to really do. I had to change the script of what I focused on, because back a year ago, coming in October 7th, it will be a year, is when I went into the hospital, and I gained 200 pounds overnight because of my infection. Now I went from 558. I was doing good. I mean, I'm losing every time I get it. It gets a setback, but setbacks are just setups for us. A setup. It's for us to come back and do something great about it. Because if we let it defeat us, then the purpose isn't there. So here's what I look at right here. I went from 558 to 758 overnight. I lost 100 pounds in 4 days in the hospital because they gave me diuretics, and the fluid it was coming out my sides and my back also as well through my pores. So here's what I have to do is I have to focus on it. And I'm a firm believer now, after going through 11 weeks of rehab, which it was just me and my therapist there, my physical therapist. It was the greatest thing that ever did for me in my life, physically, mentally, and spiritually. Because what I had to do was just focus on the thing that was in front of me, rather than letting my peripheral vision get caught up in everything else. It put me in a frame of mind that we all have to do, to focus on the big thing that's in front of us, instead of going around here and getting diverted from doing it. So here's the thing. You know what I found out? I found that things don't happen to us. They happen for us. I used to think, man, lymphedema is a curse. No, it's a blessing. It really is. It has made me who I am, because it's an uphill fight when we go through this lymphedema, like all of us do. It's not for the faint at heart. And then plus this, I always tell people too, whenever you're obese and lymphedema, I'm fighting 2 weight losses, a fat weight loss and a water weight loss. Well, I can't get rid of the fat until I get rid of the fluid. And it's that battle that we struggle with that nobody's willing to talk about. And I think this, everybody here, is we need to speak our truth and be vocal and be vulnerable, because there's great strength in vulnerability. So it's what we focus on. And that's
so
key.
important.
Yes.
And this is why so many people follow you. I'm going to go to you, Alexa, in just a minute. But Sean, we're really grateful that you're here. And we're going to wrap up this part of the conversation because we have some medical questions. But I'm going to go to Alexa and then Kelly, and then we'll move on. But thank you for sharing that, Sean. Go ahead, Alexa.
Something that Sean said that stuck out to me was lymphedema as a blessing. And that's kind of a mindset that I try and adopt too. And it took a very long time. And I know it sounds a little backwards to say that. Your gut reaction is like, are you kidding? This is so difficult. But there was a kid at the camp who even said that he likes having his lymphedema because he has all these friends now because of it. And that's how I sort of look at it too, is we have this whole community all around the world, you know, and we have this shared experience of living with lymphedema, and we grow through what we go through. And even though there are rough days, no one is denying that. It can take you to the darkest places. Yes. And I think a lot of us have been there. And the other side of the coin of that is we have people who can help lift us out of it. And it's this community of advocates and patients and the therapists who devote their lives to, you know, caring for us and teaching us. And it's just, it's hard to change that mindset. But once you sort of get over that precipice and are open to looking for the light coming through those cracks, that's really where, you know, it changes. So I encourage everyone to try and find that light, even when it's hard. It's there.
Marilu Ramos just said, I decided not to be a hostage to the recliner. And Angela said it's an emotional roller coaster. There are so many candid comments, and we appreciate your vulnerability out there in sharing how you're feeling. Remember, Alexa said it didn't happen overnight for her. It was a journey to get to that place where she could actually see it as a blessing. And we want to be on that journey with you. Go ahead, Kelly.
Just adding to everybody's, we're talking about disappointment and disappointing ourselves. One thing I learned even through therapy was the disappointment you feel in yourself can sometimes come because you let someone else down, right? And so you keep carrying that disappointment. And one thing I learned is like sometimes like you just got like if those people are continually disappointed because you have to say no. Which I learned in therapy, no is a complete sentence. You don't have to live in defense mode. You don't have to explain it. You just say no, can't do it. But understand, sometimes you might have to shift to the people you have around you, like minimize those people who are also kind of like holding you down into that disappointed mode. I mean, you should never be disappointed because you can't physically do something. You have a medical condition that can, and it does still stop me to this day, even though but yes, I will be the first to tell you. Huh? There are days I'm fighting from my bed. I will just tell you that.
Yeah. Thank you, Kelly. So we have some questions that we want to pose of the therapists on the table tonight. Ed Davis asks, can any of you speak to the process of regaining control of your condition if you've gotten away from it, if you've fallen off of the horse and you haven't been doing what you should be doing and you know what you should be doing? How do you get back on the horse? Karen, can you go first and then Nasreen?
Absolutely. So one great way is to get a prescription and see your lymphedema therapist. Another great way is to reach out to a buddy. It's so great that we form community and have buddies because we can encourage each other and we can kick each other's butts and we can problem solve. So I'm going to just stop with those two and hand it over to Nasreen because I've been talking a lot tonight. Nasreen, I want to hear what you have to say.
I would definitely say get back in with your therapist. We have many patients who fall off the horse, so to speak, and they come back, and I actually check in with my patients throughout the year just to make sure that they don't fall off the horse. But if you do, what I would say is try to start with those measures that you know are going to be safe for you to do, whether it might be something like exercise, elevation, something that might be a little bit easier and safer. If you have compression garments that were fit to you when you were maybe smaller, and then you try to put them on, we don't want you to have any binding, anything of that sort that could happen. So I'd probably just watch for that, and then kind of see with your therapist. A lot of patients do have the compression pump. So if that's something that you don't feel, maybe it's a underlying new medical condition, if you feel like it's just kind of you stopped managing it, that could be something you could safely go back into as well.
Yeah. The one thing about the LymphaPress is it's so easy to use. You just literally pull it up, zip it up, hit start, and get the therapy that you need. It's easy to get back on that horse. Sometimes the biggest obstacle is what's between our ears. Our
Yes.
brain talks us
Right.
out of it. Oh, we've gone too long. Just get right back on that horse. We're cheering for you. Question of the entire poll, raise your hand. Do you wear your compression stockings or compression garments while lounging around the house? Hands up if you do. And therapists, would you recommend it? Hands up if you do. Okay, so what do you think? Garments around the house, why? Catherine.
So garments around the house, sorry for my voice, it does sound a little crackly, I do apologize. If I don't wear compression while just even being awake where I could potentially get up, because my lymphedema is in my left lower extremity all the way down to my toes, I will start to swell. And then I could prevent that by, even if it's not my flat knit garment, I have a, just like my nighttime garments if I'm lounging, because I don't need the same amount of compression as if I was up and moving. I could use that resting compression type garment. And it definitely is more comfortable than your typical flat knit garments, and it's easy to get on. And I know I did see somebody comment about nighttime garments and being very difficult to wear in the summer heat. I can actually tell you, I do have a little hint for that. And that is, I actually called one of the companies and they suggested that I put my nighttime garment in the refrigerator for a couple hours, and it actually cools it off, and then you're not sweating in it because the garment is cool itself.
Great tip, love it. Amanda, are you always wearing your compression? I have been told that my video is freezing on occasion, so I apologize if there is any stuttering in my video tonight. Alexa, are you always wearing your compression?
I am. I am always wearing my compression. I work from home also, but something that I find, and again, because I work from home, I sometimes wear my night garment during the day instead of pants, because again, no one sees below the waist in my Zoom meetings. And it's a little more comfortable than sitting in the daytime garment all day if you are in a sedentary kind of job. Also, there are some compression garments like the Jobst Relax, which I kind of use as the sweatpants of compression garments. It's a little softer and comfier to wear for longer periods. So it is very uncomfortable, especially in the summer. I totally hear you there. I have to try that tip of refrigerating the garment. I've heard that before
Yeah,
too.
that's a brilliant tip. I love
Yeah.
that, Catherine. That's excellent. Excellent. And by the way, we want you to know that we are seeing all of your chat. Some of you are putting questions in chat, and we want to address everything that you're bringing up. One of you said, what if you don't have a therapist in your area? I ask you to please email me, bviola@lymphapress.com. In fact, Alexa, can you put that in chat? We can connect you with someone in your local area. We have wonderful relationships with gifted therapists throughout the country. In the LymphaPress network of providers, we would love to connect you with someone. And in the world that we live in today, there can also be telehealth too. So don't get discouraged. There is help out there, and we want to help you connect with somebody that can help you. So there is an attendee, anonymous attendee, who says, I have had a lymphedema arm since 1973. She's looking for a lymphedema specialist who can operate on carpal tunnel without causing more swelling. And she does love her LymphaPress. It helps her. She looks forward to it every morning, day and night. Well, that is a challenge. We can't actually offer you any specific medical guidance there, but would you suggest to our medical professionals that she connect with her primary or the lymphedema therapist she's been working? I don't know. What would you say to this? Help.
Well, anytime someone is going to have surgery, they're going to have the best post-surgical results if they have a good handle on swelling before the surgery. And a lot of plastic surgeons who are doing these new lymphedema procedures will not work on patients until they have gone through decongestion and are at a really, really good place. So I would offer that advice. Get to the very, very best place you can, and then have the surgery, because it's typical to have post-surgical swelling, and you don't want that on top of uncontrolled lymphedema swelling.
Excellent. Go ahead, Nasreen.
Can I say just specific to carpal tunnel that I have actually, and I apologize if you already are pretty well decongested in that arm, but I've actually had a couple patients who've come to me with the exact same question. They were swollen. We worked on reducing their swelling, and their carpal tunnel syndrome symptoms got much improved because it took a lot of the pressure off that median nerve. So I would suggest, if you don't have a therapist you're working with, that I would start there. I think that would be great, a great place to start. But what I like to do anytime somebody does have surgery is we come up with a game plan. If you're doing manual lymph drainage, we may increase that several times a day. If you're wearing compression, we might find you something else you can wear after surgery, post-op, that might be more appropriate and won't bind you at where you're having it, and just make modifications like that. If you have a pump and it's one you can shut off chambers, we may do something of that sort as well. But we may modify your home program.
Yes, and just as Alexa's cat made a guest appearance, my dog is walking behind me today. Shasta is very into this conversation tonight. She is loving it. And Lisa Burtock wants to know, what do you think of infrared light to drain the lymph system? I wouldn't even know how to approach answering that question, so I'm going to go back to our therapist.
Infrared light is, it produces heat. And so for those people who respond to heat with more swelling, I would be sure cautious about that. On the other hand, I have some patients who use infrared saunas, but they go in for very short periods. Some people can get away with it. It's kind of like salt. Some people are sensitive to heat, some people aren't. So I would approach it very cautiously. And if you're on the verge of buying something, I wouldn't drop a lot of money until you know how your body's going to respond.
Excellent point. Someone else was talking about vibration plates in the chat. Now, on the third Wednesday of every month, we have our Lymphedema Patient Roundtable. And I would say most of our panelists there do use a vibration plate. Are there any thoughts? Anybody? Kelly? Go ahead. You're muted.
Yeah, it was taking its own time. Yeah, I completely love mine, and so yeah, I would recommend it. If you don't have one, it's not for exercise. I don't use it for exercise, so I do put it on the fastest setting, just let it vibrate, because it does stimulate things to move. So, and it helps with the fluid in the fascia.
Catherine, and then Amanda, go ahead.
And that is something that you can use to help move the fluid, with keeping in mind that you don't have to directly stand on it. You can actually use it by just sitting in a chair and having your feet on it. Or I've actually done it where I've laid on the ground and put my leg on it. So it actually mimicked basically a therapist manipulating my fluid as my leg was just vibrating on the plate.
Mm-hmm. Very good. And then Amanda.
So vibration plates, if you Sorry, you guys, I'm having a hard time over here. Vibration plates, if you struggle with hypermobility or joint issues, again, I would say word of caution, maybe lay down on it, try not to stand directly on it. But I do like the vibration plate. And I think a good tip is I love doing this, so I'm just gonna do it anyway. Some vibration plates go like this. Some vibration plates go like this. You can find them that actually have both settings, and it is very subjective to what is going to work for you. So if you can find a plate that kind of has a couple of those features, I would highly recommend for you to invest in something like that, because again, every body is different, as well as the higher the setting, the easier it is on your body. The lower the setting, the more aggressive it's going to be. So again, just learning to understand your vibration plates and the capabilities will also probably affect the type of recovery or support that your body does get with using a vibration plate. And there's various different ways based on exercising, laying down under your desk. But I do believe, like Kelly and Catherine, that stimulation is ultimately going to keep things moving for your body.
That's fantastic. I'm so glad you said that. And please do listen to your body, because it isn't one size fits all. What may work for one person may not work for you. Before you make an investment, perhaps you can try it out. And of course, we always recommend talking to your medical professional before you embark on anything. We do know that the LymphaPress is a medical device that is prescribed. So your medical professional thinks it will help you, which means if you use it, it really will. And it's easy to be compliant because it's easy to use. John Hershinger always has a fun comment every month, so I got to read this. He said, a reminder to all that we can still do what we want with these problems that we have, because I'm almost finished with a total bathroom remodel while flopping like a fish. Who could say it better than John Hirsch? John, we applaud you. You go, John. Yes. And when you're done with your bathroom remodel, come on down to Sarasota. We got some work we can have you do over here too. Someone wanted to know about, can you wear your compression and get it wet at the beach? Who can answer that? Go ahead, Alexa, and then Catherine.
So I kind of go back and forth with wearing compression when swimming. If I do, I wear an old garment because the chlorine can kind of, mess with it a little bit. So if I have an old garment handy, I'll wear it, usually with a pair of shorts, because, you get the funny little butt shelf on the lymphedema leg when you're wearing your garment sometimes. So I wear an old garment if I do, but sometimes I don't, because water does provide like a natural compression too. So either way, but I'll let other people give their opinions too.
Good. Go ahead, Catherine.
So I am also one who will use an old compression. Because I wear 2 different compression classes on my leg, I actually use an older garment of the lower compression class because I don't need as much, because of the pressure that's exerted from the water. We talked about this a couple months ago, and I can't remember what Ed told us, but Ed gave us the calculation of what the pressure was in about 4 feet of water. And it was pretty high. I want to say it was like 110, I think. I could be wrong, but it's really high. And it's so some people may not need that amount of pressure. But somebody with an advanced stage might need that just to help a little bit. And I'm unfortunately one of those types that does need that little bit of extra, especially if I'm at the beach and I'm there and I go in the water. I'm not going to take my compression off at the beach, go in the water for 5-10 minutes, and then come back and try to put that compression back on while at the beach, because that is very difficult to do. So, and the compression actually does have an SPF built into it. I believe it's actually SPF 80 or 70 or 80 that's built in. So it can actually prevent the limb from developing burns from the sun.
Okay, good. Chat, by the way, is blowing up tonight, which I love. It's so much fun. Someone wants to know about traveling. Now, Angela, I know you don't leave home without your LymphaPress.
Do not. It has its own luggage. I do check it. I don't carry it as a carry-on. I do check it. I ask them, I always fly, I'm loyal to Delta. So I always ask them to put a sticker on it. And usually the sticker will say either medical equipment or it'll say special or fragile, just something to let them know. But I pad it really carefully with several rolls of the pump, especially several rolls of that poppy stuff. I can't even think of the name of it, but several rolls of that. I wrap it and I make sure it's snugly in the suitcase. I put sponges on top of it. So, and I've traveled with it several times. It gets there perfectly.
Snugly in the suitcase. I just love the way she put it. Go ahead, Catherine. Catherine
All
just
right.
said she was gonna save her voice tonight. She has all this great input. So have at it, Catherine.
Well, Ed Davis just texted me with some information here based on what I was just talking about. So I figured I'd
Wait a minute.
share.
Ed Davis is texting you and not me.
Yes.
Right. Well, hello.
So,
all right. Go ahead.
So just to give you an idea, 4 foot of water, which is your typical swimming pool, the amount of pressure that's in 4 foot of water is 89.68 millimeters of mercury. Your typical class 3 compression is 40 to 50 millimeters of mercury. So that gives you an estimate of the difference in compression garment versus the water pressure. So water is a great thing, especially if you need compression.
Actually, you did a far better job of explaining that, Catherine, than I would have. And actually, I just see that I was so busy moderating. I did miss the text from you, Ed. So thank you so much. Sorry about that. Anybody else want to speak about traveling? I know, Alexa, you just got back from a trip to Colorado. Did you have your pump with you?
I did have my pump with me, and I'm so glad I did, because between the travel, the altitude, my left leg, which is generally my good leg, my unaffected leg, got really swollen as well. And I didn't bring any off-the-shelf socks like I should usually do when I travel. I'll wear something on that leg, and I neglected to this time in the excitement of packing for camp. And when I got home too, my plane was delayed. I didn't get home until like 1 o'clock at night last night. So my leg was screaming, my left leg more than my right, for some compression and pumping and elevation. So making sure that you have everything you need when you travel, a little mini first aid in case you get any cuts or scratches, like Neosporin and things like that. Off-the-shelf compression for your, unaffected limb if needed, your regular compression. I know some people, and I'll have the therapist speak to this too, but I know some people can they double up sometimes for flying. But just know your body best. So just preparing for whatever you can and anticipating any potential triggers. I had a week of camp food, so sodium, which is one of my big triggers, was in full effect, and lots of activity on my feet chasing kids around. So definitely needed the pump. And in fact, some people at camp were using my pump as well because they needed it too. So just being prepared like a good scout, be prepared.
Yeah, make it, it's a part of your life. Someone said it recently, it's me time. It's the time where I am doing self-care. I can be on my phone. I can be talking on the phone. I can be playing words with friends. I can be just relaxing, but you're taking care of and managing your condition. So it's not managing you. Karen Ashforth, you said something in chat regarding travel that was really important. I'd love for you to say it for everybody to hear.
Okay, well, Angela, you must have an angel on your shoulder because you are successfully checking your LymphaPress in your luggage. But many people don't realize that airlines, if they lose your luggage, they'll give you $1,000 and that's about it. So most of my patients will either have a special roll-on carry-on that they'll put just their pump and their appliance in. And if you have to, you can gate check it. That's a little bit safer than running it through, the whole process. But this is a medical piece of equipment. And so they can give you special attention. And I see Catherine waving. So
Catherine is saying, wait, I have something to add to this. Go for it,
please
Catherine.
Please do.
So most airlines, because it's a medical device, as long as you have a letter from the doctor in the bag in which it goes, it does not count against your carry-on bag. So you can still have your personal item, your carry-on bag, and then your wheelie suitcase that fits your entire compression pump. So no matter what happens, that compression pump is always with you at all times. I actually did put in the chat for everybody. I'm actually looking for the phone number, so to be able to put it in there. I actually use TSA Cares, which you can contact them at least 48 hours ahead of time. And that allows you to have somebody help you get through security with your pump and all your compression that may be on your body, and get you in and out probably within 5 to 10 minutes at most.
And while we're talking about letters, I have written letters for patients where I have recommended that they have an aisle seat and that they have extra fluids and that they be excused to use the bathroom frequently because of lymphedema. I have written letters that people show at TSA to justify all the equipment. There's all kinds of things that you can do. So yeah, I would say get letters.
One other last thing, which I actually learned recently in a couple of years ago, was if you fly Southwest, you can actually request using a disability. Lymphedema does count as a disability, that you purchase an extra seat so you get more room. And then after the flight is completely finished, round trip, you contact them and they refund you that extra seat cost.
Wow, go ahead, Alexa.
I wanted to bring up, this isn't really a tip, but just an experience. So yesterday on my way home from Colorado, I got stopped. This is the second time this has happened to me. And I know this has happened to a lot of other lymphedema patients, but TSA stopped me because of my compression garment. And they got the wand and everything, and they wiped my garment down to test. And it's always a little bit, I don't know, it always makes me a little bit like kind of jarred emotionally when that happens too, because it's like, this is my medical condition. This is, medically necessary. They even have before, when I was flying out of Boston once, they asked if I could remove the garment, and I wear a thigh high, and I was like, there's no way I'm removing this here. But I posted something about it in my Instagram story yesterday after it happened, because one of the people with me was also a lymphedema patient from camp. And she didn't get stopped, but I think she has like a lesser class compression, so maybe it didn't show up the same on the scanner. I don't know. But we did a little experiment and posted something on my Instagram story, a poll asking if other people have been stopped as well. And so many people responded yes, and even texted stories of having their legs wrapped and bandaged and being asked to remove the bandages even because of their legs. So the TSA Cares is a good tip, and I hope that would help maybe even with getting through security and avoiding that kind of kerfuffle and hardship of, feeling like you're othered because of your medically necessary, garments and things.
Yeah.
So,
and I love the idea of reaching out to the person you work with, willing to write a letter. And Catherine just put the TSA contact number in chat, which is 855-787-2227. And you can definitely reach out to TSA Cares. That's valuable information. And so many people are also asking about our Lymphedema Roundtable. That is on the third Wednesday of every month, 8 p.m. We'd love to have you. We have similar conversation with exclusively lipedema patients. Some have lipolymphedema, and you can get to everything that we have to offer. And we have so much because we really care. We're not just about giving you a pump. We want to see you be successful in your journey. And if that means getting good information like you got tonight, or just some encouragement, maybe even some laughter here and there, and tips about how to use your compression and your pump. So please do visit our website. In the scroll all the way down lower left-hand corner, you can engage with the LymphaPress community and sign up for anything that we have, including some wonderful webinars as well. Wow, we are so running out of time. And I want to thank everybody, and I want to give everybody just a little moment to say a parting word. And Amanda, can I call on you because you're full of inspiration? Why don't you start?
I gotta stick with the classics, whether you think you can or whether you think you can't, you are right. Going back to Sean, going back to Angela, it's all about mindset. And again, if you constantly think you can't do something, if you constantly focus on the negative, that's all you're going to see.
Excellent. Thank you. Angela, you brought us such great wisdom about disappointment. How would you close out tonight with words of wisdom for our viewers?
I would say give yourself some respect. Don't be too hard on yourself. And if you fall, get up and start again.
I love that. Kelly Bell.
Hey, I would just like to let people know I'm going to be the keynote speaker at the Boston Lymphatic Symposium, October 1st in Newport, Rhode Island. And so if you want to learn about central lymphatics, you'll hear my story and the hundreds of patients that I have had reach out to me. So if you want to learn about it, make you think you may have it, come to it.
That's awesome. And if you can provide the link, everybody will get a link to this replay afterward, and I'll send you that information as well so that you can follow along with Kelly as he inspires and educates so many people. Catherine, parting words of wisdom.
Don't be afraid to reach out to fellow members of the lymphatic community. They are a great help in so many ways, and sometimes you don't realize how much of a blessing they truly are. Kelly, that goes to you 100%, and you know that because you helped me to find that I actually had a central lymphatic issue.
Wow. Wow. Yeah. Reaching out for help. No harm in that. No shame in that. That's what we're all about. Alexa.
Well, to quote one of the campers, thanks for making it so we're not scared to talk about our lymphedema. I think having these monthly meetings and just being connected online and in person, it really helps. It bolsters us, and it's so affirming to know that there are other people out there who, even if they haven't had the same experience, they can understand and validate what we're feeling and either celebrate or commiserate or whatever we may need in the moment with us. So I appreciate all of you.
I know we appreciate you, Alexa. I think that every time I hear you talk, I learn something new, and I'm always deeply touched and so honored that you're part of the LymphaPress team. Nasreen.
I guess I would say if something doesn't work the first time you try it, don't give up. There are many different options for treatment, and I will often not do the same treatments myself one day to the next, even with the same patient, based on how they're presenting and what they're doing. So just stay strong and keep working at it. You will find something that we can figure out will work for you. And I'm just going to say, find yourself a therapist if you're needing somebody to help you with your management a little bit too.
Beautiful. We appreciate you, Nasreen, and we're so glad you were there to help the families and the children at Camp Watch Me as well. It's really beautiful. Karen Ashforth, and then we're going to end with you, Sean, with a word of wisdom. Karen Ashforth.
Breathe, because when you breathe, you can feel your feelings more. It'll help you move through the anger, the disappointment, the grief, whatever's there, help you get to the other side. And breathing is really good for the lymphatic system.
Okay, I'm feeling it. I'm feeling it. And Sean, we're so honored to have you with us. You have an open invitation to join us, and we'd love for you to drop some final words of wisdom and encouragement for our viewers.
Right. Thank you, Brenda. You're awesome, Brenda. Thanks for hosting us, and all you ladies and Kelly, you're rock stars. I appreciate the information I learned. I soaked it up. I'm here soaking it up like a sponge. So what I want to do is sort of run this on is that small tweaks lead to great peaks. If you don't take small steps, and then it runs into this, you got to find out what works for you and do it. It doesn't matter what everybody else is doing. And at one step, find somebody you trust, a therapist, a doctor, everything, and stay singular focused on them. Don't run around like a chicken with your head cut off, trying to find answers, because you're going to get overwhelmed. And comparison is the thief of joy. Don't compare your journey to anybody else's. because
Perfect.
it's your journey, and stay focused on you. So take small steps, make sure you do what works for you, and don't compare yourself to anybody else.
And with that, ladies and gentlemen of the roundtable, we conclude another amazing episode. Lourdes Naya, you made our night. She said, this monthly meeting helps me a lot. It lifts me up. It makes me realize I'm not the only one. And that's exactly why we do this. You're not the only
Yes.
one. And we are with you. Everybody, take care of yourself, be good to yourself, and have a great night. We'll